She hit the hallway floor with a sickening thud, books scattered, laughter exploding around her like shrapnel. No one helped. No one even hesitated. But what none of them noticed was the man standing just inside the front office door, her older brother, watching every second in silence. What he did next didn't make a sound, but it changed everything. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Emma Carter didn't expect a warm welcome. She knew better than to hope for that. Transferring high schools in the middle of junior year, after everything, came with lowered expectations. Just keep your head down, finish the semester, make it to graduation. That was the plan. Her brother had packed her lunch with a handwritten note, cheesy as ever. "New day, new you. Show 'em me." She didn't believe it, but she folded it into her pocket anyway. She'd only been at Thatcher High for 3 days. That was enough to know where not to sit in the cafeteria, which bathrooms were safest between periods, and which hallway had lockers claimed by the kids with too much confidence and not enough empathy. Third period break. Emma kept her eyes on the linoleum, her books pressed close to her chest like armor. She didn't make a sound, didn't want to give them a reason. But Dylan Myers didn't need a reason. He was already watching her. Tall, athletic, loud in the way that didn't need volume. Dylan was the kind of boy who owned a school without ever signing for the deed. Girls clung, teachers forgave, and guys followed, if only to stay out of his crosshairs. So when Emma passed, quiet, plain, too slow, too careful, Dylan acted. One foot slid out just far enough, one toe caught her boot, and down she went. Hard. Books exploded from her arms. Her shoulder hit tile. Her breath left her in a sharp "oh" that barely made it past her lips. The hallway froze for a heartbeat, then cracked wide open with laughter. It wasn't cruel in its volume. That would have been easier. It was the snickers, the snorts, the smirks barely hidden behind hands that hurt most. Emma's hands scrambled. Her palms burned. Her backpack had torn, threads fraying, zipper popped. She kept her head down, because eye contact meant vulnerability, because if they saw her eyes water, it was over. Dylan shrugged, turning to his friends with a laugh like nothing had happened. "Didn't see her there," he said, already done with her. But someone had seen. Just inside the front office, behind the glass, half shadowed by the door, Logan Carter stood still, holding a brown paper bag and a jaw so tight it looked carved from stone. He didn't move. Not yet. But he saw it all. And he knew something no one else in that hallway did. His sister was stronger than they'd ever imagine. And Dylan Myers had just made the worst mistake of his high school life. Narrative tone. Quietly defiant, emotionally intimate, and character-driven. Emma didn't cry. Not in the hallway, not in the bathroom, not even later when the weight of humiliation settled in her stomach like a stone. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But crying meant defeat. And if she had to choose between being broken and being invisible, she'd choose the latter. At least then, no one could see the pieces. So she picked up her books. She stood, and she walked into chemistry with red knees and a storm behind her ribs. No one looked at her. Not really. A few smirked. One girl whispered. A boy near the back snorted like a punchline had just walked in. But mostly, they ignored her. The way people ignore the quiet kid who sits near the window, answers every roll call with a nod, and makes herself smaller with every breath. At lunch, she sat in the corner of the cafeteria, tray untouched, eyes locked on a book she wasn't reading. Around her, the school buzzed. Friends swapped fries. Phones blinked with selfies. Laughter echoed from tables like a private language she couldn't speak. She didn't tell Logan. Not about the hallway. Not about the names. Ghost girl. charity case, mute button. He had enough to shoulder. After all, he was barely 23 and already carrying a mortgage, a little sister, and a memory of their parents that showed up on bad days like a shadow at the dinner table. So she swallowed it. Or tried to. But Logan knew. He always knew. He didn't hover. Didn't ask. He just started showing up. Not as a brother, but as a presence. Helping the school set up new desktops in the lab. Dropping off forgotten folders. Sitting in his old pickup outside the cafeteria with a soda can and a cracked window, watching the front door like it might forget how to protect her. Emma didn't know any of that, but Mr. Halbrook did. He taught drama. The kind of teacher who saw everything and said nothing until it mattered. He'd watched the fall, heard the laughter, and more importantly, seen her face when she stood. Not tears, not rage. Resolve. So one afternoon, as she slipped past his room, he stepped into the hall and handed her a single yellow flyer. Speech Club. Find your voice. She barely looked at it. I can't. You can, he said, not unkindly. You just haven't yet. She didn't go that week, but the week after, she stood at the back of the classroom, silent, hands shoved deep into her sleeves. No one pushed her to speak. No one mocked her for staying quiet. She kept coming. At home, she started practicing, in whispers, in murmurs, in the safety of a locked room with her mirror. Each line cracked, each pause shook. But her eyes? Her eyes began to lift. Because in the rubble of her confidence, something unfamiliar stirred. A spark. A refusal. A voice. It didn't roar. Not yet. But it was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't be easy to ignore. She hit the hallway floor with a sickening thud. Books scattered. Laughter exploding around her like shrapnel. No one helped. No one even hesitated. But what none of them noticed was the man standing just inside the front office door. Her older brother, watching every second in silence. What he did next didn't make a sound, but it changed everything. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The flyer said, "Showcase night. Find your voice." For Emma, the irony wasn't lost. She'd spent most of her life trying to hide her voice, from teasing cousins, impatient teachers, classmates who mimicked the way she paused on consonants like it was a comedy routine. But the speech club had taught her something that no classroom ever did. When you speak from truth, people feel before they judge. 2 weeks before the showcase, the list went up on the bulletin board. Her name, third from the top, Emma Carter. A moment you missed. No one thought much of it, until someone connected the dots. The girl who got tripped, the one who never talks. She speaking? The whispers spread faster than the fire that had taken her childhood home. Dylan was the loudest. "Bet she says 5 words and chokes," he joked to anyone within range, leaning against his locker like a local celebrity, the quarterback crown tilted on his smirk. Emma walked past him that day, head high, earbuds in. But she heard every word. So did Logan. He didn't confront Dylan in the hallway, didn't threaten, didn't raise his voice. He just made a silent promise. To be there. To watch. To witness what his sister was about to do. Showcase night arrived with less fanfare than a football game, but more tension than a final exam. The auditorium wasn't full, but it felt full, packed with the weight of possibility. Teachers, parents, drama kids in thrift store blazers. And Dylan, reclining in the back row like he owned the stage from a distance. Emma stood behind the curtain, heart thudding so loud she thought it might mic itself. Her fingers brushed the corners of her note cards, now bent from being turned and turned again. When they called her name, she walked to the podium. No stumbling, no rushing. Just a 17-year-old girl in a simple blue sweater, standing alone in the spotlight. She scanned the crowd once, found Logan. Front row, hands folded tight, jaw set. Found Dylan, half smirking already. Then she looked down and began. Her voice was quiet at first, raw, but every word was deliberate, every pause earned. She spoke of grief, of being the girl who didn't bounce back, of laughter that cut deeper than bruises, of getting up not because she was strong, but because no one ever bothered to help, of what it feels like to walk through halls that whisper before they speak. She never said Dylan's name. She didn't need to. By the end, you could hear dust settle. And then, from the front row, Logan clapped. Once, twice. Steady. The drama club joined him. Then the teachers, then students. Slowly at first, unsure, embarrassed, but moved. Dylan stayed frozen, arms folded, eyes lowered. He wasn't the center of attention anymore, because in that moment, the quietest girl in school owned the room. And the boy who tripped her? He was just another moment everyone wished they'd missed. There was nothing grand about the moment. No spotlight, no parade. Just another morning. Squeaky floors, the faint scent of pencil shavings, lockers slamming with tired routine. But as Emma Carter stepped into the hallway that had once swallowed her dignity whole, something had changed. No one spoke. Not out of fear, out of recognition. A few students shifted to give her space. One girl she didn't know looked up from her locker and nodded, just once, just enough. A boy in a varsity jacket glanced away, suddenly busy with his phone. No snickers, no stares. Dylan wasn't at his usual post. Maybe he was sick, maybe just embarrassed. Or maybe, finally, irrelevant. Emma walked forward, books hugged tight to her chest. Same steps, same hallway, different footing. Because now she wasn't walking afraid, she was walking seen. She still stumbled over certain words in class. Her voice still caught on vowels sometimes. But when she answered questions, people listened. Teachers gave her space to speak. Students waited a breath longer before moving on. She wasn't trying to be perfect anymore. She was just being real. And that was enough. A week later, Mr. Halbrook posted a recording of her speech to the school site with her permission. By the weekend, it had been shared on the district page with a note. Courage sounds like this. The comments rolled in. Teachers, parents, even students from other schools. Emma didn't read them all, but she read the one that mattered. Logan handed it to her after dinner, scrawled on a folded slip of paper. Just a short note from Mr. Halbrook. Sometimes, justice isn't loud. Sometimes, it's just the sound of one girl standing when everyone else sat back down. Emma stared at it for a long time, then smiled. She tucked it into her notebook behind her old bent speech cards. "Guess you were right," she told Logan. He arched a brow. "About what?" "I do have a voice." He grinned. "Told you." She bumped his shoulder. "Could have mentioned it came with a fan club." In the weeks that followed, 3 more students joined Speech Club. 2 of them had never spoken up in class. One was the kid who used to sit behind Emma and draw in the margins of his math homework instead of speaking. None of them said why they joined, but Emma didn't need them to. As for Dylan, he faded, not punished, just forgotten. Because in a school that once rallied around loudness, something else had taken root. Not the story of a boy who tripped a girl, but the story of the girl who got up and kept walking forward. And that, in the end, was the real payback. The kind that doesn't shout. It just lasts.